Welcome to Degentalk number 2. Today we're here with Tony and EC Vix. How's it going, guys?
Good,
Hey, thanks for
good.
having us.
Excellent. So, there's been a little break in NBA action, and Tony, I heard you're ready to watch some games again.
I'm itching. I'm getting the itch here. I'm getting, you could sit on the beach and hang out for a couple of days, but the next thing you know, you're like, I gotta get some action going here. I'm bored.
Right on. All right. And we were just talking about some NBA futures because now it's about halfway through the season, and
Yep.
it's time to check out if there are any futures that are worth it. So we've got, different divisions. Vix, why don't you pull up one of the screenshots you have of the odds, and we'll see what we've got here.
Well, I was just gonna say, Tony, why don't you kind of give us a synopsis of what you see going forward into the second half? That teams that are stronger, teams that are weaker. We know there's some injuries and some trades. Let's go over that, and then tell me which future you want pulled up when you start to discuss that.
Sounds good. The first thing I'm going to look at is the Milwaukee Bucks. This was a playoff-bound team last year. They were in the right direction, and then this year they absolutely stalled. Looks like they might trade Michael Carter-Williams, who's under contract for another rest of the half of the year coming up here. They got to make a move because they have no veteran leadership. They got nothing to drive them in the second half. They were 3-10 in the last 10 games, 3-7 in the last 10 games before the All-Star break. Atrocious record away from Milwaukee. They were 7-24 on the road and 15-8 at home. That's bad. That's really bad. I mean, that's an issue. Take a look at Detroit. The Detroit Pistons overall 27-27, 4-6 going into the break. Lost their last three. At home, they've been reliable picks if you're doing quarters and halves. They've been really reliable at home. They were 16-10 overall, but 11-17 away from home. That's not looking too good. That whole Central Division's an absolute mishmash of teams. You look at one of my favorite teams to go with last year was the Chicago Bulls. They're 3-7 before the break. They lost their last four. 16-10 at home and 11-15 on the road. So there's definitely been a change of the guard this year. That's for sure.
All right, definitely.
Are are you looking at then? Okay, so we're on the Central Division. What are you
Mm-hmm.
seeing as far as some of these futures that are out? Do you see a play here?
Uh, let's see. Central
If not, we
Division.
can go to a different one.
No, I think the only team that's really got a chance, if they're going to knock Cleveland off, would be Indiana. Uh, they've been, 5-5. They're middling right at 500. They're 17-9 at home. We got to improve that away record at 11-16. But I think if you're going for a long shot at 2001, it's really the only play. Chicago's done. Let's be honest. They're talking about trading away Paul Gasol now. He's going to be a free agent at the end of this season. He's not going to be back. The injury bug has plagued them all first half of the season. They changed the coaches, which was a horrible idea. I don't understand. I mean, I understand Thibodeau didn't get along with ownership, but you got to make that work. You had the gravy train, and it was the only team in the entire Eastern Division that had a chance against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they flipped the switch and said you got to go, which I think was horrible. Detroit, I mean, they're not going to be able to improve this away record, I don't think. I do like the trade that they made, getting Harris, very young, athletic guy who could play the small forward. They got him. They got rid of Jennings, who was shooting 37%, which was a nightmare. They did give away the starting power forward, but I think Detroit's got enough with the right kick in the butt. I think they could be a better team in the second half. I still don't think they're going to be a powerhouse until at least next year. I like the Pacers. Monte Ellis has always been one of my go-to guys that I used to look for in fantasy, and he's always been a difference maker, points and average-wise, on the teams he played, whether it was Milwaukee. He's really got to pick it up, though. He hasn't had a great first half of the season like he usually has, so that would be the team I look at. Pacers plus 2,000.
Gotcha. So what's the next division you want to look at?
I'm going to go with the Southeast Division.
All right.
Taking a look here, Orlando, they made the trade, so they got Jennings. To me, I just can't understand this move. You're trading a guy you had under contract for 3 more seasons at about $11.5 million a season, and Harris, local guy from Long Island. The guy can play. I mean, unless he was just so dissatisfied of being in Orlando, I really don't understand that move. Yes, you get the starting power forward, but you still got to pay Jennings at the end of the season. And this guy is going to look for a big contract. He's coming off this injury that knocked him out for the entire rest of the year last year, and I don't understand that quite. Looks like Bosch is going to be out for an extended period of time in Miami with the blood clot issue again. So his season looks like it could be over. I did hear that Houston was interested in swapping Whiteside for Dwight Howard. That's not going to work out. Guess what? Dwight Howard, everywhere he's been miserable. He's been miserable in L.A. He didn't like it in Orlando. He doesn't like it in Houston. I mean, where's he going to go? He's going to go to Pluto next. That's the last option on the list. It's the last option. He's running the course over here. You take a look at Houston, 4-6 in their last 10. Lost the last 3 right before the All-Star break. They're another team that can't win on the road. They're 11-15. Listen, Harden cannot play defense if you paid him triple. Ariza, I like Ariza, but he's starting to get older. It's not working out that well over there. But Washington, I mean, oh my God, this has been a nightmare of a team to try and pick with. They're 3-7 in their last 10, 11-16 at home. Do you realize how demoralizing that is to be 11-16 at home? They only made one difference. Paul Pierce left to go to the Clippers, and the next thing you know, these guys don't even know how to put their jock straps on. It's disgusting to watch. One night, they'll get blown out by 10. The next night, they'll beat somebody by 20. So you can't figure them out. The common sense pick here is going to be Atlanta at plus 120. Nobody else in the division really stands a chance. You can tell me Miami, but, you still got 30 games left of Wade, who's injury-prone. You better do a Hail Mary if you expect him to stay healthy. Dragic, who they signed to that big contract, he hasn't lived up to it. So if you're going to tell me you're going to trade Whiteside, who's younger and more athletic than Dwight Howard, they don't stand a chance in that division this year. So the common sense pick is pick up Atlanta Hawks plus 120, put 100 on it or put 1,000, and get 1,200 back.
Gotcha.
I like that pick.
So what else? What other division do you think is coming in as maybe even an underdog upset or something where you're getting a lot of good value, good juice out of?
I'm going to say Boston Celtics. I'm going to say the Boston Celtics have a shot here. They still got 2 days before the All-Star, before the trade deadline. They were 8-2 going into the break, 17-10 at home, 15-13 away from the Boston Garden. I like them. Toronto's not a bad team. Don't get me wrong, but they going into the playoffs. If you got to depend on Lowry and DeRozan, I would like to look elsewhere personally. The problem with Boston when I'm watching these games is they don't have a set rotation with the bigs. Sullinger is still 320 pounds or plus. He's still out of shape, which just blows my mind. David Lee, who they traded for in the offseason, they're not even playing him. He's out of the rotation right now. Jaretko he's a guy who should average 10 minutes a game, which he is. So he's not bad. But if they could package somebody and get a star into Boston, I could definitely see them eating away at that 4.5 games right now behind Toronto. My Knicks are dead in the water. They're an absolute nightmare. 9-17 on the road. They don't even have a winning record at home right now. They're 14-15 at home. They lost their last 6 before the All-Star break. If I could wake up tomorrow and do a Hail Mary and pray that they trade Carmelo away, that would be the best thing that happened. They need to get rid of Melo, start fresh. You know, Porzingis is going to be a future of this team. And the problem is, Carmelo's, 31? He's got 2 bad knees. He's got no drive to win. You could cancel them right out. The Nets are going to be going nowhere for the next 5 years. They're 10-21 at home. I don't even need to read you any more numbers after that. You're 10-21 at home. They might buy Joe Johnson's contract out the second half of this season. I personally wouldn't. You got to have somebody to stabilize this young group of talent. Philadelphia really taken off a little bit. If you play quarters and halves at the Philadelphia 76ers, they've been covering. They've been covering the plus 6 or 7 points they've been getting on halves, and they've been surprising some people in the first quarters. So they've only been 3-7 in their last 10, but they've really played a lot better now that they have an established NBA guard who can actually play the point. Who would have thought Ish Smith would have been somewhat of a difference maker? So, they only got 8 wins, but the future might look better in the next 3 or 4 years, hopefully, in Philadelphia.
Got it. So, if that's what you see for futures, let's kind of dial in as far as we got some games tomorrow, and
Yes.
then as we've all, or me and Theo at least, have jumped on the Golden State Warrior first quarter train. Do you see that continuing? So what do you see for tomorrow?
Tomorrow, Chicago's on the road at Cleveland, minus 11.5. Me personally, every time I think Cleveland is going to cover these double-digit numbers, they stick it right to me. If I was going to look at anything, I would look at the first half, minus 5 or 5.5. It'll probably be around 5.5. First quarter action is probably the second best option. If it's 11.5 for the game, it's probably going to be 3.5 or 4 for the first quarter. Listen, Gasol's going to have to carry this offense. Butler's out. Rose, you don't know what you're getting game to game. So it's going to be a mishmash. It's going to be difficult for Chicago Bulls the second half of the season. You got the San Antonio Spurs on the road at the LA Clippers. Spurs are favored by 3.5. 78% of the action right now is on the Spurs. I personally wouldn't want to lay the 3.5 for the game. I would look towards the first half. I would probably lay 1.5 for the Spurs for the half, and probably I might think about taking the Clippers in the first quarter if you can get 1.5, because San Antonio. Yeah.
Oh, I just want to say here I can see it. Bookmaker, they've already got it at minus 4, so there might already be some line movement.
Yeah. The only site that seems to have it still at 3.5 is 5 dimes. So if I were you and you're going to be taking the Spurs tomorrow for the half or the quarter or the final, and you like the Spurs, I'd jump on 5 dimes. Pinnacle's at 3.5. It looks like it went down a little bit. But San Antonio varies from game to game. There's no consistency like some other teams. You're not sure if they're going to come out strong or if they're going to come out a little sluggish. So they're not exactly the best first quarter unless they're going against a really bad team. And the other game going on tomorrow is the Utah Jazz versus the Washington Wizards. 2 teams I just hate picking. If I had to, I'd go Utah, take that defense the first half, and take half a point. Washington, you just never know. I mean, it really is a crapshoot. You want to talk about a crapshoot? Washington Wizards are that team. You just never know. So those are the 3 games for Thursday night.
Okay. Do you see any other teams in the second part of the season for a possible team to look at for first quarter and first half on a regular basis? When we talked about Golden State Warriors, that they've been a good team for the first quarter and first half, but at some point that's going to come to an end. Either their playing is going to come to an end in those areas, or the odds makers are going to just stack up the points because they're going to see people are winning, and then it's not going to be worth it anymore. So what is a up-and-coming team you think that could be worth looking at for first quarter, first half action on a consistent basis?
I'm going to say the New Orleans Pelicans. They've been covering a lot of numbers. They've been getting anywhere from 6 to 11 points for a game, 4 or 5 for the half, 2 or 3 for the first quarter. Some of their injuries are starting to die down a little bit. Hopefully, I think going into the second half, they'll be able to get a little more consistency going ahead. They were 4-6 going into the All-Star break, 14-12 at home. So when they're at home, they've been covering numbers. So if you can catch points with New Orleans at home, I would suggest that. Portland, Trailblazers. Who would have thought? I mean, this team was not even expected to make it out of the cellar this year. And I got the best second record in the Northwestern Division. They went 8-2 in their last 10. Won 3 games right before the All-Star break, and they're 16-11 at home right now. And Lillard has been dominant. C.J. McCullough, I mean, who thought this guy was going to be scoring 20 points a game? They've been able to piece it together with Aldridge leaving. They definitely have a distinctive advantage playing in Portland. So Terry Stotts has definitely got that team rolling right now. They're pretty good. They're 27 at the All-Star break. So that's probably 13 or 14 more wins than I expected.
Well, let's talk about what might be the game of the week then. On Friday, you have Golden State at Portland. And after you just made that case that, Portland's kind of been on some momentum, we have to see what those lines look like when they come out.
Yeah, well, let's be realistic. There's 3 or 4 teams that I refuse to bet against. There really is. San Antonio is one. Golden State. Who else would I say is on that? I would say Golden State. Cleveland. I mean, you really don't want to go against LeBron. Because at any given night, he can dish out 7 rebounds, 7 assists. I would rather just lay off him completely than to go against him. And Toronto really started ripping him up before the All-Star break. 8-2 final run right before the All-Star break. They're 18-6 at home right now, so they could continue to do that. Me personally, I've noticed they really don't come out too hot, but those teams. I wouldn't want to go against Toronto at home. I wouldn't want to go against Cleveland at home. San Antonio and Golden State would be my teams that I would not go against. Anybody else is fair game, depending on the matchup and the night. If they're 2 games and 3 nights, I would consider going just about anybody else. But those 4 teams, I would definitely steer away from.
Okay. Anything else in the second part of the season that you see as different? Like they just have maybe patterns that happen every year. Do some teams just kind of fizzle out, or some teams become more motivated? Is it too early to say that right now, or how is that with the second part of the season?
Well, the first team I look at is going to be the Memphis Grizzlies. They're 31-22 going into the All-Star break. But Gasol is out indefinitely. Well, he's out for the rest of the season with the broken foot. Brandon Wright is most likely going to be coming back in a couple of weeks, but he's not a difference maker. He's not a defensive presence like Gasol is, and you can't run the offense through him. So I think Memphis is going to be the first team to fade. They made a trade. They traded away Courtney Lee, their best defensive presence. So clearly they're going to have to look to rebuilding for next season. Connolly, they might trade away Connolly. We're not sure. I would think the common sense trade-off would be Zach Randolph. If they're going to start rebuilding this, they're going to have to trade away Zach Randolph and get something for him. Maybe they could get 2 second rounds, or maybe a first round and a second round they could get for him. That's going to be my first team to fade away. And the Bulls. Butler's banged up. They just don't have any chemistry. Noah's out for the rest of the season. They're talking about trading away Paul Gasol possibly here. in the next 2 days. If they do that, this is a sinking ship. I wouldn't want to be on their backs at all. They got absolutely demolished against Cleveland right before the All-Star break. They got blown out by 20. That team's they're fading, and they're fading fast. Looks like some bad decisions were made coaching-wise there. I think those are two,
Okay.
and I think the Dallas Mavericks are done. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Dirk, he's not going to be able to consistently keep on playing 31 minutes a game. They got Chandler Parsons and they got Wes Matthews, but those two guys can't run an offense. They are very nice second and third tier options, but in terms of having to turn the ball over into their hands when the game's on the line, I don't like them at all. And on the road, I'll definitely be going against them probably in the second half of this season.
Okay, great. Well, that's about all we've got today for Degen Talk. And I want to thank Tony for coming on and giving us some really good insight about NBA action for
I,
this second part of the season.
I appreciate it, guys. Anytime.
Tony, where can we find you if we want to talk to you?
Twitter handle. Twitter is always the best option. I'm always on there. It's picking NBA and MLB. So, shoot me a message, follow me, let me know how you found me. I'm always down for a good conversation and bounce some ideas off somebody else.
Okay, great. And I also want to tell everyone to come join our Telegram sports betting group. We'll put the invite link in the description. We've got people from all over the world in there every day. We've got over 150 people in there. We're talking live sports bets. We're talking in play. We're talking basketball, soccer, MMA, all kinds of sports. And like I said, there's people from around the world, so it's a good place. Maybe you're a capper, maybe you're a sports book, maybe you're just curious, a beginner in sports betting. We've got a big range of people, so definitely come check us out. And Tony is even in there too, and Vix too. So we'll see you in there, and thanks a lot for listening.